Hello,
We are
everyone.
live.
Hi.
Hello,
Yep. Welcome to the 27th episode of DevKami. I'm Chi Leong.
I'm Tristan.
And this is Swimming, the guy that talked too much. So, what happened for the last week? Actually, before that, we should talk about what happened next week, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
what will happen next week? No, actually, not next week, this week. So, this weekend, on Saturday, we will have introduction to web development by Malcolm.
Welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, it will happen at Science of Life Studies at Segambut. You can find it on devkami.com/page/meetups. So these our meetups actually curated by human because AI is not that good yet. So for the afternoon, we will have an indie hack session happening at where is the place again, Tristan?
It's at Rapid River. So these two events are happening at the same time, except that Intro to Web Development is happening the whole day from
Yeah,
9:30 to 4:30.
yep,
Indie Hack is happening at 2 p.m. So this is all happening on Saturday. And two different target audiences. Intro to
yep.
Web Development, you should go if
You
you
want to
are
learn,
new.
yeah, you
Yeah,
want to
if you're.
learn the basics of
Mhm.
web development.
Yep. So Malcolm is a really, really cool guy. He's very, very knowledgeable. But
Mhm.
you'll learn a lot when you attend his session. But if you're interested in working on your own thing, like let's say you have a side hustle or
Mhm.
you just want to work on a side project, then you should go to the Indie Hack session at
Yep,
Rapid River. It's at Vertical Business Suite in Bangsar South.
yep. So there's two sites. You find the one called the Vertical Business Suite.
Hmm.
It's not easy to find. It's at Bangsa South, just before, just under Nexus actually. So
It's
you can find
across
it.
It's
Nexus.
a cross nexus. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Right.
have to take a bridge,
And
like
you,
a walk bridge.
yeah, if you drive, the tips is look for the correct number.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
if you are going to vertical business suite, you should look for the pillar that points to like vertical business suite,
Yep.
Hmm.
Okay.
or
After
else
that,
you'll be very far away.
yes. So that's it. Move on. The next event will be Tuesday, happening on April 2nd.
Yeah. At
Hmm.
Rapid River again.
Yes.
Come on, give me
Yay.
some surprise, man.
Yep. Yep. It will be the day after April Fool.
Yep. So it's very interesting. We have a remote presentation happening on
Yeah.
Ruby Tuesday.
From
So we're
Canada.
going, yeah, from Canada. We're gonna have um, serverless uh, platform as a service company that allows you to write Ruby or Crystal
Mhm.
as the Lambda function of sorts. So it will be interesting if you come and participate. I'm not sure if we're streaming it. Usually, the Ruby Tuesdays we pre-record it and then Jimmy uploads the recording.
Right.
So you're gonna miss the talk if you don't go
Yep.
because I don't know if we're streaming it.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much the last of the thing until Saturday.
Yeah.
We have an intermediate CSS workshop also by
Yeah.
Malcolm. It'll
Mm-hmm.
be
Yeah.
this time it's happening at SS15 at
Yeah.
Subang Jaya.
Dude is
Mm-hmm.
killing it.
So I think that's about the event that we have next week. So let's talk about what happened for the past few weeks. When
For
it
the
comes to web
past
technology.
week,
Yep.
well, this morning. Oh, sorry, was it this morning? No, yesterday morning, I was on Cloud on Board.
Yep.
Uh,
Like
it
Google.
it's I
Google.
mean it's a conference, but I feel it's just targeted towards people trying to start off with cloud technologies and with
Mhm.
GCP. So
Yep.
if you're already like into Kubernetes and like whatever
Mhm.
GCP stuff, it's probably not for you. But if you're still figuring out what cloud computing is about, that was an interesting conference. The manuals they had was quite good. They had like quick labs free training. Again, very basic, but still free training. I didn't try the food because I left just before lunch.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing that happening is McDonald's bought a big data
Mm-hmm.
company to actually help them to rearrange a menu and all that. I don't know what to talk about that, but it's interesting because imagine that your food is actually decided by data
Soon
analytics
you,
and all that.
you So McDonald's, you just need to go there and it will decide what you should eat.
Yes, you don't even need to point on the board.
Hmm.
So
So it's like a omakase.
yeah.
This
Hey,
basically the chef decides what you eat today.
interesting. That sounds interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I think the last item for our bus corner is Pi Week. I think it's already passed. Is a Pi Week is a 1 week competition where you do things with Python. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it tend to be games. It tend to be used Pi game. I believe this is a Pi game thing. Pi game is a gaming framework. It's a framework to write games on Python.
Yeah, it's very easy to use, and it is used to teach kids how to program in Python as well.
Yeah, I think it's already over, but you can see the result. I think they're going to announce a result soon, so we'll see some interesting demo and games that you can try it out. So I think that's pretty much it for Pi Week. Anything on your guys' list that's interesting?
No,
No.
All right, let's move on. So we are very ahead.
yeah, back to the meat of the show.
Yes. So last week we actually talking about jobs, and we decided that it's a good idea to talk about job interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we actually should have update about jobs related thing. So Bank Negara Malaysia, they actually released the latest number uh, of salaries. Let me show you. I will share the link if you can find it. So the basic salary for a degree for Malaysian in 2010 is actually 1,993
That's like
ringgit.
10 years ago.
Yes,
Don't you have like more
Yeah.
recent data?
but in 2018,
Oh, okay.
the basic if you get a basic degree, your expected salary is 1,983. It's actually dropped, and the number is actually adjusted by inflation. So here's
So
an interesting thing for me, right? There's a second part. If a master degree in 2010, your expected salary is 2,933. But if you get your master degree now, in 2018, your salary is 2,707. But the thing is, this is like across the board. It's not related to IT or whatever.
Yeah, it's a median number.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a median
But
number.
it's adjusted for inflation, so we can compare across the years, right?
Yep.
So, but doesn't that mean that it's generally the same? So it's like, um,
The same, but with less spending power.
Yeah.
no, but it's adjusted for inflation,
Yeah. It's roughly the
so
same.
there's no
There's
purchasing power thingy.
it just means that it's dropping, so you get more. You get less salary previous year and last year.
No, well, if it's properly adjusted for inflation, then you actually have nominally more salary, except that the purchasing power is the same.
Yeah.
And so what it tells me is that companies are generally paying around the same for
Yeah.
the same positions. For the same level of education.
Yeah, it's roughly the same,
Mhm.
but that's an update. That's the update of the number. But I think today, our focus is on job interview because that's what we decided last week. I think it's a good idea to cover, but so after this update of the numbers, job interviews. Can you guys tell me about what's your experience about job interview here? Let's start with these two things. What's your best experience in job interview, and what's the worst one that you've seen? Tristan.
What, me being interviewed or me interviewing someone?
Okay. How about start with you go for a job interview, then tell us about your best practice later.
So I don't remember. It's been a long time since uh recently it's only been two, right? So
Yep.
because there's one before when I spent quite a long time, and then the one most recent. So um the most recent one, it's really, I wouldn't say there was a lot of technical questions,
Yep.
because most of the technical questions was um it was covered by a technical test.
Right.
And it's like basically there's not a lot of quizzing on the exam itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because I explained myself quite completely during the exam, right?
Right.
And so it's more of interviewing in terms of expectations of what does it mean to be part of the company.
Mhm.
Probably it's different because I am joining a company where I know some people and I've worked with some people already, so
Right.
it's different.
Right.
So yeah, so I guess that's actually a good thing because the way I did the interview was like interviewing as if we're talking to each other right now, right? So
Right.
we're just talking about things and just getting a feel for each other. How are we going to be working together?
Mhm. So how about Chi Leong? What's your best or worst experience?
I don't have much of a good experience because for most of the time I work with within the crony cycle, like with each others.
Right.
So before that, I had some bad experiences with job interviews.
Uh-huh.
You want me to share some of them?
Okay, let's keep the name out without,
No, it will be without names.
yeah.
I
But
have
tell us.
I have top three in mind.
Yep.
So just in case you don't know, I actually didn't finish my degree. So
Uh-huh.
so that is one of the foundation of the bad experience is
Yeah.
that a few of this company, um, even though like I've like almost 10 years ago, I was young without a degree, and when you say like you can code, like not many people actually believe you, even though they ask you to come to interview. I
Yeah.
don't understand the reason behind that, but one of them is really funny, which was I'm gonna skip up the name. It's a multinational company.
Uh-huh.
I actually passed the technical interview,
Yep.
so then I actually had to do another interview with the HR.
Yep.
And the HR, the HR interview is basically the session where I'm just it's just basically because I was young, so I didn't know better. It's
Yeah.
just a session where the HR berates me for like, oh,
Oh,
you don't know how to code. Uh, you look like a person who is not honest or something like that. It was really weird.
okay.
But yeah. But basically, um, some of the worst one are basically surrounding people not believing that I can do what I say I am, even though I pass some of the technical interviews or
Yeah.
tests. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
my experience is mixed. So some of the best experience is actually when the co-founder or a technical member of the team actually come talk to me. So that is easier because we can. That is good to me because we can gauge what the team wants, right? So as technical person, we usually chat around like, okay, what stack do you use? Uh, what kind of stuff you're building, right? So and the answer won't be like we're building a website. It'll be like we're building a Django site or we're building a Ruby site using Linux, using this. Then we can go very deep, like what's the load balancer, what's the database, why you use Postgres. I think a technical that kind of interview is interesting to me because talking to because in the end of the day, it's the technical team that you're hiring you, not really HR. So technical person with technical person is good, and also it's. I didn't realize it when I was a bit younger, because when I was younger, I tend to talk because I'm interested in what tools, right?
Yep,
As
we
I
can
go,
fix it with that.
correct. So now it's. I'm sorry to say, but it's also my gauge toward your competency, right? So we want to know whether you know what you're talking about and whether we can work with you, right? So as we go senior, the interview goes both way, which is why I really cherish technical interview. Uh, I also find that a certain thing that it makes a good interview is actually a good separation between the interview and the technical competency test. So you do not mix technical competency test and interview together. So, for example, one of the company, what happened is they give me some question. I just do it. I'm just feel it, do my thing. The interesting thing about tests, you do not need to be right. You need to justify your answer, but you do not need to be right. The best one, luckily I never seen anyone that do otherwise, but currently all the technical tests do not require, well, it's ABC, but you do not need to get 100% to get a job. You just roughly know enough. So that's another gauge of me toward what's a good interview. Then the not so good one is where HR sit with you and just ask you what you know and just give you a job. So that's, to me, it's not that good one, because I believe that technical competency in the team is judged within a team. Not
But
to say HR is bad, it's more like the team know what they want.
you know why some companies would do that? It's because they would rather have more output from the technical team rather than have them um, waste their time doing interviews that might be not,
Yeah,
like, there's no return on it. Like, okay, we're going to be like rejecting this candidate anyway.
but yes, that's true. But that's a sign that it's a company that we do not want to join anyway, right?
Well, maybe this company actually has a lot of applicants, and so that's why
Yeah,
they have this screener in front. Like,
correct.
okay, maybe we'll do like the some minimum interview where red flags are there. Like, if you come to the interview with uh, like drunk, for example, and
Yeah,
then it's an immediate
correct.
no, right? So the low hanging stuff, like get HR to screen them, and then so that at least you have a better chance of getting a
Yeah,
good candidate when once you go to the actual team interviews.
yeah. And that absolutely makes sense, because you want a candidate that is fit the category. Because I used to work in in fact, I'm currently in the a financial industry. Software firms works around the the financial industry.
Mhm.
They have requirement. I'm sorry to say, they have requirement in a way that they will do background check. So if you happens to be a delinquent last time, I'm sorry, you pretty much don't have a chance. If you, especially true if you work with traditional banking IT, they will do a lot of background check. That's where HR comes in actually. And they're also a bit strict about who can join, which is why they tend to be people with a university degree or engineering degree that can do software. So that's where HR comes in. Then the team involved to actually decide law. But that said, some of the best one I have involved are talking to the team. So and interesting one is the one that I actually had to do some technical tests. Technical tests as in, yeah, have to write code. So I have worked for a local antivirus company. I have to learn reverse engineering. Damn good challenge. People you can figure out which local antivirus company is that. No, not local antivirus company, is antivirus company in Malaysia. Then one of the company, the way they filter candidate is to require them to do a curl HTTP request to a web service to submit their resume. That's a filter. Then I have another one where, which you might already know from my previous meetup, require me to write some code to generate a one-time password using open standard. That is actually very interesting as well. To me, that is interesting. That usually is one signal that a company is interesting to work with, but it's not necessarily true, but it's just one of the indicator. The not so good one is where they let you do interview and that's it, right? So that's the not so good one. And also another not so good one is company that you go for interview, but they do not give you response whether you pass the interview or not. That is horrible.
Well,
So,
but did you have?
Stop playing with the box.
oh, sorry.
Because for some listening might be pretty annoying.
Okay.
There's a condition. I forgot what's the name. Like certain people they have a issue with these subtle noises.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So
did you have a like? Why were you asking about interview experiences?
No, because I think, okay, so I think each of the interview experience from us is actually very interesting for new people that want to join the industry. I think you need to give an example what is expected for a job interview and how to prepare, but not in the way that I would give you the answer for a test. That is silly. But what you should prepare for a job interview and
Mm-hmm.
what kind of level you should expect yourself. In the end of the day, for people that join the industry, it comes back to two things: brush up your basic technical competency and ability to communicate.
Yep.
Or there's a third one: don't bring your parents, but I won't go that far.
I think some of the best one I had, even though some of them I didn't pass in
Yeah.
the early days, was they make me realize like what I'm actually lacking.
Yep.
So I know what I
Yeah.
should actually study more on.
Correct.
But it's good if the interview actually had like a purpose, like because you were asking about the for me like what was the my best experience, right? I have
Yep.
like, and I just realized that both of you were talking about the some of your worst experiences.
Yes.
So for me, like one of the worst experience I had was with this lab by this big company. So they spun off like a lab sort, so they have like a small startup environment. So I thought, okay, it's going to be like similar to a startup. They're going to be agile and those things. And the CEO of this lab startup thing attached to this whole company was like very much involved. But then the whole interview process was like the whole day with six people interviewing you for like an hour each. And I thought, like, this is not how you would interview for an agile startup thingy. It's like very, very tiring. You
Mhm.
bring in project managers and HR and uh, technical project leaders that you're not that's it's not even attached to the lab. They're just, it's because the parent company wants to uh, be in control of the whole process. So that's like, it doesn't make sense. It's, if you want to be like the culture is already very different, and
Yeah.
I can already foresee that even though at in appearance they want to be a startup, you can already see that a lot of the corporation stuff, like the bureaucracy, is
Mhm.
already seeping in even from the interview stage. So like that, I just felt that that was a very long, arduous, very time consuming interview that eventually I didn't think that they actually wanted to find out how
Mhm.
I would fit in the team. It's more like them trying to like be nosy. I don't know how you say it in Malay. Is it kiasu or something? I don't know. Like nosy.
So
Just want
we call nosy kepo.
Oh, kepo, yeah, kepo. You want to, they just want to kepo the whole interview process, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's just one of my like really bad experiences, and it's definitely something I thought that should not, that if I am going to be interviewing or at least be in charge
Yeah.
for hiring, it's not something that I would want to emulate.
Right. Okay, so talk about our general experience. I think we can start talking about some interesting thing along the way. Uh,
Because so the interview has a purpose. Like, what do you think if you were going to be interviewing? What would be the purpose of your interview? Like
uh,
how would you say that? Like, what would the interview give you, and how will you give your like whoever you're interviewing a good experience?
uh, at minimum, it will test whether I will be technically fit. So one of my earlier job interview, I failed because technically I cannot be fitting inside the company, and they make it clear to me that I just don't have enough skill to join the team.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
So
good. Being
yeah,
clear is good.
correct. That is very good. And also, my goal interview is not just to prove myself that I can join the team, but whether I can fit in the team, right? Something that take experience. Why I want to emphasize two-way communication between team, because you need to set an expectation whether you want to work in a company. especially when you don't have any experience, you need to see whether you can fit in. Whether you need to see whether they're willing to accept people that don't have experience with certain stack. It's some that's where you asking question is very important. When the team asks you what you want to know about us, right? You should have by minimum a few things that you should already know. What's the nature of the business? What's the nature of the business and what they do? But what you should really ask is what's the stack? What's your problem? What's the problem you're facing right now? Or why you use certain
But
stack?
that's too complicated. I just want you to pay me money every day, right?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. But the thing is, if you cannot fit in the team and get fired, will you work? Will you get the money you want? Maybe for a while, right?
Yeah.
You want to be effective while getting your money, which is why it's important to go through it.
That's too much work, you know.
Yeah,
It's tiring.
yes, which is why people don't change job every year. So that being said,
Yeah.
I think how about what you guys think about technical interviews? Interviews around technical knowledge or job challenges and whatnot.
I used to, so before they changed, so I guess it's okay to talk about it now because they've changed the exams, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite technical questions. We're going to the next section, right? The
Yeah,
technical
yeah, yeah, yeah,
test.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the technical test that I really like to ask across all levels of your technical skill is writing a URL shortener. And some people just don't understand, why are you going to ask someone to write a URL shortener? It's easy to do that, but actually
Correct.
it's very different, right? When so across all of the people that has taken the test and I've interviewed, you can find out how like, I wouldn't say seniority, but how mature they are as a software developer in the way they would answer the URL shortener. Like, for example, someone who just graduated, let's say graduated from a boot camp, right?
Yeah,
And in the boot camp, they already write a URL shortener. They would usually just submit whatever they wrote in the boot camp.
yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, it is your work. Some people who have, like, okay, maybe a bit more experience would do it in a different way, maybe a bit
More fun.
more concise. Sorry.
More fun.
Yeah, more fun. No, well, because so the test is very, very simple. So you write a URL shortener and you have to get it deployed,
Yeah.
right? And of course, the whole stack is up to you. And there's a caveat, like bonus question at the end, where it says, what if you're on the scale of Bitly, where you have 100,000 um, URL shortening um, operations per second, like how would that change your answer? And most of the people just like, oh, we're going to have more databases and whatever, right?
Yeah.
But the more mature people will actually be more specific, because this is the great thing about, like, how I thought this question was, is because it's quite there are different ways of approaching it.
Mhm.
Like, my favorite answer so far was was this person who treated shortened URLs like logistics.
Mhm.
So what they would do is they would actually pre-prepare, like, let's say 20,000 shortened URLs in the database.
Yeah.
And then whenever someone requests for a shortened URL, you would just give them the next one.
Mhm.
And then at the background, you write into the same record, like, so basically it's like you're giving out prepared shortened URL. So you don't synchronously generate the URL and then give it the same instance. So it's so you're splitting the input and the output into separate parts, into separate queues, where the input is like, because it's the human submission, you expect it to be longer.
The
And
input and
then,
output is concurrent actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, but so there
But
are
the
two.
point of
So,
this exercise is not really that to ask you to make a website, but to test your thought of the process.
correct, yeah. And it seems that only the mature developers would have this light switch in them,
Yeah.
that that they actually consider, oh, okay, there are different performance characteristics
Yes.
for what is being asked of me. Which one am I optimizing for,
Yeah.
and which one am I like like the pros and cons of this, right?
Yes.
Like I have to what are the trade-offs basically, and that's the kind of like exciting things to talk about during the interview. And
Yeah.
which is why this is still my favorite question. It's a very very simple question, but depending on the person who's answering it, you can have very very rich discussions about it.
Yeah,
And
and
so
the whole point of this exercise is not the fact that whether you know your things, but do you know your how to write a UI shortener? Is the thought process of why this
mhm,
way, whether you think about performance, yes, why you choose this, why you choose that. It's really
mhm.
about that, right? But it also serve a very important interview situation. Uh, if you read from various websites like Worse Than Failure, for example, you will hear about horror story about interviewing, where people with many years experience, more than 10 years experience, yet they can't do a simple web application, right? Or the joke around Fizzbuzz. So a senior developer that do not know how to write Fizzbuzz, right?
I think first is the basic test. There's no way somebody who can write code. You can
Yeah.
argue that some of the more whiteboard tests might be a bit too hard, but Fizzbuzz is basically the most minimum you can have.
Yeah. But the point of this is, a web application test help filter off people that can't do Fizzbuzz because you actually
Well,
have to write the code.
that's quite a low standard to beat, though. Like,
Yeah.
I think if you have a sieve, it's like the holes are very very large, and you're
Yeah.
just really like the stones that don't fall into that sieve is like you can just already see them and not consider them at all. So
Mhm.
that's why I don't think fizzbuzz is something that's useful as a
Yeah.
test.
So I think so too, eh? So because my next question is, would service like HackerRank is
No,
service like HackerRank very useful for interview?
not useful at all.
Right. I think
Yeah.
so too because some of the tests, some of the programming tests, is a little bit too basic.
It's actually just enough to filter the people who can pass.
Yes. So
But I mean pass as in people who need to prove that they can do a bit of coding,
yeah,
understanding certain logics and stuff.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean that it's represent their quality and their what you call it, the thinking process in terms
yeah,
of solving a problem.
yes. So that's another thing to think about as well, right? Because I know a lot of company is using HackerRank, for example, as well as the process, but it's HackerRank is there because unfortunately it's automated and all that. So it's scalable, but it doesn't give the quality of the applicant, right? That's why you have second round technical interview.
So we were going to do HackerRank as well, and plus like Codility and all of these things, right?
Yeah,
Um, and of course, with due diligence, I wanted to see what kind of output they're going to do.
yeah,
And so for me, when I was doing, I think it was Codility, I was going through it, and
yeah,
I prefer doing TDD. So I really like to do it. But the problem is there's a very very tight uh, how do you say deadline.
yeah,
You can only answer the question within 15 minutes, I think.
yeah,
And I like to like because you have a very specific specification, right? This is
yes,
perfect for TDD because you just write the test, and then you implement the code, and you write the next test and write the specification, etc.
yeah,
the the time pressure does not allow for someone to like to develop, yeah, like that what you're saying, the thought process, like
yeah,
doing it in an approach where you have it written in a maintainable way, in like a separate concerns way with everything else that like that we know is good for software development. It seemed to me that Codility is trying to just get things working,
yeah,
and it doesn't care how you get there as long as you get the correct answer. So
uh, yeah,
for them, the correct answer is the be all and end all of the exam. It's not the process of getting to the application being
It's
done.
basically passing the test.
Yeah.
So which was a bit off topic, which was done by Cisco engineers.
Yes.
So there's a vulnerability discovered on their website. So and there was a POC POC of the exploit. And what they did, instead of patching their own system, they just update their Nginx rules to block the POC from being able to execute.
Yeah.
Technically, it's solving the issue, but in the wrong way.
Yeah. So, but here's the issue, right? When Tristan talked about evaluating using a URL shortener, the way you're looking at it is whether you're hiring a senior. Okay.
So we give the same test whatever you're well, we used to. They
Yeah.
changed the exam now, so that's why I can talk about it now. But
Yeah.
we used to give it to whether you're applying as a fresh grad or you're applying as a senior
Right.
software developer. It's the same test.
Yeah, but so here's the thing, right? I know quite a number of fresh graduate would able to do this. It's a UI shortener. It's pretty easy to do. So, but there is also a lot. You are filtering a lot of other junior developer that. Yeah, I think that's supposed to be a good thing, I suppose.
Depends, of course, which target of people you are looking for. But
yeah,
one of the main thing about, I think, the UI shortener is not just about. Of course, you need to be able to code that, but
yeah,
the thinking process, how you're gonna solve this issue. So bonus point if you can solve it with a way that is fun and entertaining.
yeah. So
Yeah.
my thing is it too big of a pressure for a fresh graduate? That's my thinking process just now. But I suppose that's fine because I'm biased because I wrote stupid shit in school before. I wrote a decision tree out of boredom, ID tree, so I can handle that. But I'm thinking whether it's too big of a pressure for junior developers.
It's actually partly related to the one that we're gonna talk about, like how we are gonna test for cultural fit. Is one part is the how do you work under pressure? Like,
Correct. So I have a good.
it's not that we want the correct answer. It's more like how are you going to stay calm and produce like at least a suggestion of the solution.
I have, but I think I can structure my question to another way. It's not often that we do that, but would you use would you use your URL test, your shortener test, for intern?
I would, yeah. Like it's
Okay.
probably not asked interns to deploy because they wouldn't know it. But
Yeah.
then again, it would be a great surprise to like, oh, the intern knows at least to deploy to Heroku, right? So
Yeah.
that's like all of these, like the whole. So I feel that I like this question a lot because this is like a mini project that encompasses the whole software developer software development lifecycle from
Yeah.
inception to actual deployment to
Yeah.
like delivery, right? And so if the intern actually knows how to deploy it to Heroku, that's great.
Yeah.
If not, then okay, then I just need like, okay, what actually I'm looking for is a function that returns some shortened version of a URL. And of course, if I say google.com, I should be able to retrieve like that string, let's say, of part of the URL. And if I go there, I should go back to google.com, not somewhere else. So at least there's some kind of uniqueness. There's some kind of like a way to it's up to you how to implement it, but at least like parts of it. So because it's going to be building blocks on top of each other, like let's start from the very core of a URL shortener, which is mapping of a URL
Yeah.
to like some kind of string that
Right.
hopefully is shorter than the original string that you're trying to shorten.
Yeah, because so the reason I'm asking something like this is because we have been talking about apprenticeship, where we're taking people that's very fresh, right, to be trained with for us to build up a developer. I'm thinking whether that's a appropriate. But like Ross said, you just need to structure it.
Yeah, well,
Create a function
correct.
that
Yeah,
things.
it's
Then
this, like if you're going through the apprenticeship, right? So that's a way for, like, for you to walk through
Yep.
with this person, like how do you actually think through a problem, like you break it down to its components, right?
yeah.
And because if you give like, okay, do a URL shortener, I have no idea, I'm going to be overwhelmed, I go sleep under the desk or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Oh, I would
Because I
just
don't know
quit.
what to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
or just quit, like I like, I don't know what to do.
Yes.
But as a mentor, and you're teaching your apprentice,
Yeah.
like, okay, what is a URL shortener, what is its basic purpose? And then now we start going through things. Okay, actually, it's just this. It's a mapping, and then now we start saving it somewhere. So now there's storage, and then there's retrieval, and then there's like, okay, now if there's storage retrieval, can we do it as a database? It's going to be a separate service. Now we start talking to the, so it builds on top of it, and it's like concepts on top of it.
Okay. Interesting.
It's how
By the
you
way,
gradually enhance your program.
Yep.
Like, you
yeah.
can break
By
down
the way, we because we talked about HackerRank, I just realized I actually wrote a blog post about it like some years ago. So I think Chi Leong will put it up on the show notes, right? Yeah.
putting out right away.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Sorry.
reminding.
So yeah. So yeah. So that's why I think that, like, and it doesn't have to be URL shortener. It's just my favorite. But there, every like small project can always be a learning experience, because there are always ways to enhance it,
Yeah.
and to particular directions as well.
Yep. Yeah. You're absolutely
I would
right.
like to share normally the thing is not just you, my favorite things to test is how you deal with IO, because programs normally most of our useful program needs to deal with the real world.
Yep.
So if you know how to deal with the IO problem, and also IO is not is prone to failure, how are you gonna handle it and stuff is very important.
Okay, so we have a few minutes before we move on to the topic. Okay, so this is my experience. I need to ask you from that. In some of my experience, there's two type of filter for developers. Actually, this is mostly from one company that do the hiring. They get very high quality developer. But the only thing that scares developers is that they are based in a house, so that scares a lot of people. But the filter is like this. The first filter is how do you, they got URL endpoint that is not a web page. They only accept posts, and you must upload a file. Okay. So this is the filter I call the curl filter. You need to understand enough technical difficulty to actually filter it. Then there's a second filter. The second filter is they involve asking the developer about what's the algorithmic complexity of certain algorithm and apply in databases. And to me, they are very effective to get very competent software developers down here. A lot of people fail, but what you guys think about this type of questions? These types of filter for developers?
I think it. Sorry, Young wanted to say something.
No, nothing. You
No,
say.
I think it really depends on what you're hiring for. Like what I was hiring for was more for web application development. That's why the questions was more geared towards getting like the request response cycle,
Yep.
and playing around the concepts there, right?
Yeah.
The curl ones might be great for, like I remember if when I was doing some work with the telecom, like we had to open a socket and it's a long-lived connection,
Yeah.
and make sure that it's open, and we have to parse it. So my questions for a possible hire would be different. Like, how would you parse a particular stream of bytes, for example? What kind of data structures
Yeah,
will you be using to put it in?
Yeah.
Will you be doing memory mapping, or will you be doing like how will you be buffering the stream, for example? So it's a different kind of question.
I'm gonna do some Jediing. Sorry.
A Jeding. What is a Jeding? Okay, so he left.
So what happened is the company do have this kind of algorithmic problem. So which is why they ask that. So yes, it's relevant. It's not just they ask for asking sake. But there's a good filter because turns out that a lot of software developer in Malaysia do not have a concept of big O. So I just find it interesting that as a way of hiring. But that said, I think we should move on to the next topic about testing for culture fit. How do you test for culture fit? How do you interview for culture fit? Whether you
Quite
want,
difficult, actually. Like, the best way, I think, or at least the ideal way to test for culture fit is to actually work with someone for at least a couple of hours. But the
yeah,
problem there is that that's a big investment of your time, which
yeah,
is why I think like the screening process is where you want to uh, get us like the highest potential candidate
yeah,
where you invest into these types of fit issues, right? Like,
right,
because if someone, like if you do the culture fit test, for example, for everyone that comes, whatever, without pre-screening,
yeah,
then you'll probably be dealing with 100 applicants per week,
yeah,
which
Yeah, it's very
all
tiring, time
correct.
consuming.
Yeah, and it's like the skill level is all around everywhere else. You won't get a lot of false negatives,
yeah,
but there's going to be a lot of false positives, and it's going to be like very time consuming, like what Julian was saying,
uh-huh,
expensive in terms of developer time, because the culture fit ideally would be done by actual developers,
yeah.
because they will be eventually working with this person, right? So
Yep.
But
that's the
which is
thing.
why, which is why you always do the technical interview first, right? That
Yep.
filter us the
Yeah.
most.
Normally we do a filter like whenever you whenever you need to uh want to some like want to apply for the job, you need to you need to answer this, at least answer this quiz and submit it to
Yeah, yeah,
email, something like that. But the problem with that is it scares a lot of people away. But in a way, it's not exactly an issue, because if people can be scared away that easily, it might not be just the
yeah,
fit. But yeah,
I don't know if it's
uh-huh.
like it's scaring away. I feel that some people, especially the more um like the people who have been in the industry for a long time, feel that this is not a good uh, use of my time, let's say. And so you would actually be turning away some of a better talent that
Mm.
you would have gotten if you just had like a phone call with them. Hey, let's talk for like 30 minutes and see what's up.
no, it's
Because
not.
That's how we hire from the
Yeah,
community.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
hiring for culture do not actually need to take time. In fact, remember that I keep saying that we need to talk to the team. You interview them back. That's how they handle culture. So, for example, it's very easy for the other team to just decide not to hire me because I don't have filter. I literally don't have filter. So they say, okay, you don't have filter, I don't hire you. They didn't actually say that to me, but because they actually have filter. But you see, face-to-face interview within the first hour or maybe 30 minutes is how you decide whether you want to keep the team member, right? That's culture test. This is a culture test, right? Uh, Having a team member to interview you, which I say is actually a good practice because the team member, one of them would actually decide whether you're fit of the team because it's a feeling thing, not a test thing, right?
Yeah, that's why it's very hard thing to determine whether somebody is cultural fit.
Correct.
That's why like in some interviews we spend a bit of time giving them like some like probably a that's more than just for the, it's not just like the task or the quiz. It's like to gauge their attitude from the short time that we had
Yep.
with them. Yeah.
But that's strange though, that um it feels like the interview, like, well, I guess that's how it is for most of the time, that the interview is the first time that you actually get see this person and
Yeah.
interact with them.
Yep.
But what about a radical suggestion where I would say the interview actually has already started even before? Like, for example, in my case, I feel that my interview with my with Rapid River had been ongoing for quite a long time, because I've been meeting with them on meetups. I've been talking with them,
Yeah.
Mhm.
figuring out like what are they doing, and
I
then
think
eventually,
yeah.
like, okay, yeah, let's just seal the deal. I'm going to join,
I think that is
right?
an exception. We should actually take that as a really exception, because
No,
Yeah.
but
we,
but here's the thing: we have a lot of meetups,
yeah,
and there are always people who are hiring, and
yeah,
then there's like this is I feel that this is a very like a lost opportunity for many people that
Yeah.
don't attend the meetups, because this is like your part of your interview, not
Yeah.
just people interviewing you,
Yeah.
you also interviewing other
Everyone
people.
should interact with each other at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
When
And
people, which is why I'm a bit angry when people say is the meetup recorded? Yes, it may be recorded, but that's not the point of a meetup.
yeah, and so see, within a meetup, that's already your culture test that
Yeah,
Swimming was talking about. It's not just 1 hour. This is like the meetup an hour
yeah,
over and over for a few weeks until, okay, I think this company is great, but it's not my fit.
yeah,
But I would prefer to join this company who has been speaking um, uh, in conferences, because I kind of know them. I've talked to their developers and I like them.
yeah. Precisely. That's what community is for, right? In fact, I'm in my anthropologist mode again. In the traditional way, farm hands are work in farms because they're like the owner of the land. Okay. Uh, but there's another way to look at this, right? It goes both way, because in meetup, I know there's people in the community that I won't hire.
Yeah,
So,
which is great, right?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
hearing
yeah,
you
yeah,
swimming.
That's I think that's yeah. Well, first of all, swimming is being very mean, but I
yeah,
also think that that's great, because like did like if you didn't do meetups before,
yeah,
like you
correct,
were not joining, like this would be the first time these people you would be interacting with, like
correct.
Yep.
you wouldn't be able to make a good decision there, right?
Yeah. Because in the meetup, you will actually can gauge not just how nice a person is, but also based. It's a technical meetup, therefore it's technical in nature. Then you roughly can guess the technical competency. So, for example, Rapid Bureau might not hire me because I do not know Ruby or whatnot, right? For
Well,
example, that's
yeah.
what I mean.
So
That's what I
I would
mean,
say
right?
that yeah, in the spectrum of hiring, you
Yeah,
might be docked a few points because of that, because
yeah,
we have to.
precisely. So you would have that because we interact, right?
Hmm?
So it goes both ways. So I would know that, yeah, as a career progression, Rapid Review people is awesome, but it's not something that I would join because I do not believe my technical competency fit the company, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it goes both way. So this is a bit off topic in a way that technical competency, no, sorry, culture fit are judged by community. And I think I'm going to use this opportunity to sell the idea of community learning. Join us whenever we meet up. I'll go to DevKami calendar. But do not do that just because you want a job. That is how we won't hire you. Join us, learn from us, share your knowledge.
Yep.
Uh, if anything, we can be friends. That's my thing, right? At the
No,
end of the day, I think hire is not really just skill and all that, but also
yeah.
whether you're a nice person.
But because this, like, I feel that the culture test that we
Yeah,
were talking about, it's very difficult to judge that from an hour interview. I
correct,
mean, that
correct.
you
Yep.
have to start somewhere, but
It is very tough.
the
Yes,
best way, I think, is like with frequent interaction,
yes,
just like you're part of the community. It's the culture. If
yeah,
this company or employer or developers are being part of the community,
yeah,
then this is already representative of their culture.
yes,
This is already like a way to determine whether you're a culture fit or not, right?
correct. But that's a shortcut. But in
It
most
is,
things,
yeah.
In a
I
way, it's not a shortcut because you'll be doing
Investing a
it
lot of
for many
time.
years. Yeah.
no. It's not a shortcut as in take a short time to
Yeah.
go. It's a way to know that who we want to hire. But often I work in a company that is not part of community members. So my trick for that is how do I know it's a culture fit? That's why the 3 month probation is for.
Hmm. Which
So
which is, I guess, it's a proxy
unfortunately,
for like the repeated, like, it's just like a period of time where we get to experience you for a long time, like an
correct,
exposure thing.
correct.
Hmm.
Correct. So some people would think that 3 months is for you to prove yourself. Unfortunately, we need to think of it as the other way around. Because unfortunately, if we are not numb, we can if the cut doesn't fit, it just doesn't fit. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Be honest to each other's. Don't
Yes.
waste each other's time. Yeah.
So that's what happened in my last job. So
it's,
about
it's,
that.
it's like a
I
relationship.
I'll
Don't
share
drag it on.
I I will share an article that I really, really like. It's
Yeah.
from Rands in Repose, the first 90 days.
Yeah.
It's exactly
Yeah.
what Sweeping is talking about. Like the 90 days is actually your extended interview. It's
Yes.
just because you got the job doesn't mean that your interview is over. It means like for 90 days you have it's like more of the same thing. Like
Mhm.
you knowing more about your employer and your employer knowing you more about you, whether you fit in the culture or not, and everything else. And so I shared it on the chat. I think we're going to be sharing it on the show notes as well.
Mhm.
It's really good to read.
So I think that's all from us. But now it's
There's no
actually
question, so we can continue a bit with the topic for
yes.
5 more minutes.
Mm.
Anything we want to share
No,
about?
actually, not so much. Other than the fact that I used to work in company which have bad culture fit, but I deliver, then I gone.
So, well, I'm interested. Why? What got you going? Like, if you,
Responsibility.
oh, well, okay.
That's very ambiguous.
No, no. I just put it this way. The first time in the first company that I don't feel like I'm the culture fit. First, I need money. I'm poor. I'm young. but
You
but the
are.
most important thing is I promised the boss to deliver the project. I managed to deliver it, and as
Yeah,
far
but don't do it because of guilt though. Just
no, yeah. That's something you need.
it's the same with relationship.
Yes,
Like don't drag it on because you feel like
correct.
you're obliged to.
So that's my mistake. I feel obliged to it, but in this case, I also make me doesn't make me look bad because I finished my responsibility.
Yeah, but at least while you're doing it, just do the best as you can. Like
Correct. So my
while you're
last
at
one
it.
is the same. I do not believe I'm a culture fit in the same company after within the first week actually, but I promised them to finish the project in a usable way. So it is what it is. The reason why, and in this case, the culture fit is less toward development culture. It's more toward like uh, I'm more of a westernized thinker than an Eastern Chinese thinker.
Why not poof?
Yeah. I can speak, just because I speak Mandarin,
Sorry.
just because I can speak Mandarin, doesn't mean that I can think like very. There is a Chinese businessman uh type of mindset that I cannot fit into that. You know what I mean? The previous company is precisely like that. I can't fit into that box. So I just finished, leave early after I finished delivering the project. So here, but even that, sometimes the culture is ambiguous, especially for a new organization where the organization did not set their foot right yet.
I
That
think
we have to
put it
take
this
into.
way. I have advice. Like if there's nothing set yet, or while you're at it, try to because you're part of it, so you can be part of the change as well. I mean,
Correct.
put it positively. Like if we try out whether we can change it or we can do what like while we're at it, try to
Correct.
influence them. Or
Yeah.
we are not totally helpless, but
Yeah.
if things doesn't improve or anything, it's just we did the best we have.
Yeah. Or you will end up like that time I accidentally introduced Agile, but let's not go there as well. Yeah,
We should do a episode about accidentals of adventures, the accidental adventures of swimming.
But you should also consider that you can whether the organization listen to you or not. For example, in the early interview, when Tristan said the company had their whole senior management interview him, that is a sign that you can't change the organization. Forget it.
I doubt it could be changed. And it's
Yeah.
just not just me. There's a lot of people there. So like those 6 people, they're just
Yeah.
rotating across different applicants. There's a lot of us there.
Yeah.
So that's like, whoa. So it's just different.
Yeah. So you will know. So
Yeah.
also, how do you know whether it's a culture fit? That is experience mostly.
Mm.
Unfortunately.
It's just all feeling, just abstract
Yeah.
feeling.
So swimming's advice is to apply to as many companies as you can, so you know which one you would like.
Yeah.
Is that your
Stay for a while. Make sure you stay for a while.
taste everything? that
Pick
you-
up
if
your
you-
mind swimming.
If
Come
you're
on, don't
new,
play around.
you're new, you better be open to it. But if you had a job, stay at least for a year. Learn as much as possible. Good or bad experience. Those are experience because in some company I don't like. I don't agree with the
If
management.
it's learn the good ones. If it's bad,
Understand
learn the
why it's
lesson,
bad.
but try not to get too jaded.
Yep.
Try not to get polluted by the negativity, but
Correct.
learn from the lesson. But
Everything good or bad is a learning experience, and that is
So
important.
Jack Ma actually suggests that you should stay for at least 3 years.
3 years is actually a good number as well.
Don't job hop too much.
Yep.
But even if, for example, you don't like the job, you stick it out for 3 years and then you decide,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going. Because whether you like it or not, you will still learn from this company. At least you know, or you learn what you don't like, and so
Yeah.
you avoid it in the future.
Right. Okay.
unless it affected you. So,
All right.
Yeah,
So
unless
that's
there's abuse or something, right?
anything else we have?
no,
before
we
we-
have to wrap up. Yeah. No.
No. Okay. So I think a preview on next week. Next week we have interview. I think it's Nazro. He had a lot of good experience. Something around this, but we tried to go. Nazro, I hope nothing changed in the schedule next week, but next week we'll be interviewing Nazro Kabaruddin. He is a community organizer, experienced in the industry. I believe it'll be very good thing to interview him about everything. It's not just about job, not just about community, but literally everything that we can imagine. So that's it. I think we should wrap up now.
Yeah.
So goodbye.
Bye, folks.
Bye. See you next week.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Subscribe to the Spotify channel.
Oh yeah,
Well,
click
and
like,
the-
subscribe,
Yeah.
and all that. So bye.
Bye.
Ta-da.